I'm Erica Durance. I play Alex Reed on a show called Saving Hope. What attracted me to this series was that love story between the two characters. It was the element of tragedy and grief and how to move through that, and how do you move through that, and what happens to your basic moral value set and the way you see the world when tragedy hits, and something that we're all going to have to deal with. If we haven't before, we will. And so I looked at that whole concept of how could I walk in the shoes of somebody that's been through this kind of grief. I haven't experienced that as of yet in my life. And so the process is kind of interesting. I suppose the way I get into anything as an actor is through music, and I've always used that. And I think it was just reflecting on a lot of things, listening to a lot of music, and just kind of being part of it. I know that sounds quite vague, but being that I hadn't drawn from that, but I have drawn from heartbreak, and I have drawn from loss and feelings of hopelessness, and I embraced all of those ideas. And then with the help of people that I was working with and my executives and those kinds of things, and just really trying to find a way to show grief in varying stages, because when I'm doing that, and it was 13 episodes long, I didn't want to go, okay, I'm crying all the time and it's always this way. You know, people get angry and people laugh, and people, so how can I do this? And I did speak with some different people that have counseled people that are going through grief, and tried to get that kind of on a logical, linear level. But the rest of it was listen to music, dive in, and hope for the best. Most of the people that have responded to me, and again, primarily women, it is a show for women, although I've had men very secretly go, I'm totally hooked and I cry every time. But they have spoken to me about the idea of either wistfully connecting to it and looking for that kind of love, to have that kind of commitment with someone. And so throwing themselves into the shoes of my character, just to be able to experience what that relationship would be like, to have that kind of experience and to love someone that much. And then there have been people that have said, I've been through this. I don't know how many people came through and said, I know somebody that was in a coma and I'll never forget this experience or that experience. And so it was really interesting to kind of open that dialogue, and they would say how they responded, and some of them were incredibly angry and some of them cried for weeks. And so it was interesting to just see how it did touch people as much as it touched me, and I was very grateful for that, and I was excited because that was the whole thing that drew me to this story, was that universal appeal of what do we do when that happens to us, and we all want some kind of assurance that the people we love are in a good place and they aren't afraid or whatever it is. So it asks a lot of those questions, but it doesn't say this is the answer. And I think that it created a really good feeling with people of tolerance and stuff. I find it kind of overwhelming to think where they're going to go season 2, where they're going to go if there was a season 3, that sort of thing. I really do take it one step at a time, because it is such a fickle business. And so even when they're talking about being in the writing room for a season 2, certainly I'm very excited to see what are they going to do with her, and how are they going to continue with the theme that they've had in season 1, but they all have all these new elements now, and how are we going to keep it fresh for people? So I think all of those questions certainly come through for me. I would love to see my character experience a little bit more levity, and you could see a little bit of her quirkiness and all those qualities start to come out and surface, because the first season was just, it was the 3 linear experiences of, those were her emotions. She had like the 3 things that were going there, that she had to deal with. So it'd be fun to expound on that.
I'm Michael Shanks, and I play Charlie Harris in Saving Hope, which is a drama set in a hospital about a medical procedural with a twist that my character, who begins the show engaged to the love of his life, Alex Reed, played by Erica Durance, ends up in a coma and ends up wandering the halls of the hospital, having a sort of prolonged out-of-body experience, and intermingled with the procedural elements is a love story with Alex and Charlie, and as well as this supernatural element that where my character wanders around talking to coma patients and people that are recently deceased. Well, I think that the first element which makes our show attractive is that at its core the show is a love story, which is obviously a universal concept, and that aspect of it is adhered to throughout, and it's it's that emotionally bent kind of story, which I think women all over adore kind of romantic stories like that, and of course then they grab their boyfriends and husbands and sit them in front of the TV, and the men begrudgingly watch and eventually like the show. So we like that aspect of it, and that's a strong concept in the first season. Obviously, the procedural element, the dramatic element of the show, there's no better place for a drama to take place in a hospital where life and death stakes are an everyday way of life. And the third element, of course, is the supernatural element, which we delve into just enough to not break the facade of the reality of the show, and we delve into it, and we keep exploring and mining as we go forward. So there's a little bit of something for everybody in the show, and I think that either one or all of the aspects are concepts that are not foreign to TV viewers, and each has their own individual draw. So I think there's something for everybody in the show.